Now, Washington Mornings on the Mall.
105.9 FM.
And AM 630.
WMAL.
7:37 on WMAL, where Washington comes to talk. I'm Brian Wilson. This guy right here, he's Brian Neiman. How are you, Neiman?
Fantastic, fine, getting better every day.
And on the phone right now is KERRY Pickett from the Washington Times. KERRY is has the editor of the Water Cooler blog, and she's an editorial page writer over there, and she's covering the NATO summit. Sounds like there are two stories going on there in Chicago. One is the NATO summit, the meeting of world leaders. The other is the reaction on the streets, which has turned a little violent at times. Where have you been?
I've been mainly covering a lot of the protests. I stopped by the summit very briefly the day before just to get a feel as to what exactly was going on, but mainly a whole lot of the protests and the reaction to the summit.
Well, how is it going out on the streets?
Lots of anger. I checked out the Iraq war veterans medal chucking all over the streets right before a lot of the tensions with the cops have pretty much happened, and a lot of the clashes yesterday happened. And I got to tell you, that was probably the worst of it all.
Is it a small group of people with a subset of the larger protest group that's causing the problem? I know that when I covered some things here in D.C. over the years, it usually was a very, very small subset of people who were actually causing the problems, and most of the people were not wanting to be involved in some kind of violent activities. What's been your observation?
I think you're probably referring to the anarchists.
Yes, I am, indeed.
Yeah.
I don't like to mention them by name because they have long memories.
They are what they are.
And they come after
you.
That's right.
No, you know what? The anarchists had their tactics, but make no mistake, even those who like to walk peacefully, they certainly seem to like the fact that the anarchists will certainly do their diversity of tactics for them. So that's kind of like, hey, look, I'm not going to get arrested, but the fact that the anarchists are sort of doing their dirty work for us is okay with them.
I'm talking with KERRY Pickett from the Washington Times, who's in Chicago covering the NATO summit and the protests. So how much damage was done to the city? Was anything really done economically?
Not necessarily. I think at this point it was really just an issue of a lot of stores just didn't bother opening up. They pretty much decided, what, we're gonna stay closed. We don't want to deal with a lot of the nonsense. There weren't any smashed windows. There weren't any type of like a whole lot of bad vandalism. I mean, I did witness some kids like bringing out some black markers and probably like putting some like newspaper vending machines. They put some like anarchist A on a number of places, but it wasn't some like that stuff going on that can't be corrected easily.
What is their biggest beef? Do they have a coherent, strong argument as to one thing or a couple of things of why they're there protesting?
There are generally said about what happened in Afghanistan as far as the war was concerned. So they are more concerned about the whole body of Afghanistan in and of itself. So at this point, they're talking about what is happening over in Asia, about a lot of the warships perhaps going over into Asia at this point. So, sometimes they will simply just pivot over into economic issues, like we're seeing with the G8 and with the austerity measures. So, could you imagine if the G8 was here? It probably would have been a lot worse.
Did you see any drones over Chicago? There was some talk of a drone being spotted flying over Chicago last week. Did you see anything flying above the sky?
The only thing I saw flying above the sky were Chicago police copters, and that was probably the only thing that was above us.
Okay. Chicago PD, I understand, had their website hacked as well. Is that right?
Yes. And in fact, I have to say it was probably going on for the past 3 or 4 days. Their website got this really bad virus that was really melting their system, and it didn't get real bad up until yesterday when the whole site came down. So at that point, they, we're pretty much dealing with what the hacking group called Anonymous. It hasn't been completely confirmed, but it looks like they're taking credit for it at this point.
All right, so that's outside. What's going on inside the summit? The topic seems to be Afghanistan and the path forward in that country. How is that going?
Well, at this point, they are looking at Afghanistan's economic transition. They're looking to have Afghanistan go into a peaceful and sort of stable transition with the ownership of its own security, its governance, and development into a free state of sovereignty. And so they want to make sure that once we withdraw all of our troops completely, it's not going to have any issues of terrorism. It's not going to have any issues of illicit drug production and perhaps trafficking. So that's where we are with Afghanistan. Also, there's also going to be transitions not just in the Middle East, but also North Africa. So that's what our country and other countries over in NATO are also looking at as well.
All right, Kerry Pickett, editor of the Water Cooler blog, editorial page writer for the Washington Times. Thank you very much for joining us.